This is 1680 The Crow, and you're listening to our feature presentation.
Right. So we found that I should preface by saying that migrant youth are even less likely than youth born in Canada to be having sex in the first place. So that's just the starting point. And then, however, of the migrant youth who are sexually active, they are using contraception less. There have been declines in using both birth control and condoms, and that's the concern. So when it comes to preventing unwanted pregnancy or the use of, or STIs or STBBIs, that's really important because some of these STIs and STBBIs can have longer term consequences. And so migrant youth who don't feel that contraception is relevant, or they may have misinformation. They may not have accurate, up-to-date, scientifically informed information about contraception and sexual health to be able to make informed decisions. So that's where the community can play a really big role to encourage the young people, migrant youth, to have accurate, scientifically informed, up-to-date information from reliable sources. So it's really important that whatever information migrant youth are receiving about sexual health, contraceptives, they really need to be accurate and scientifically informed.
Absolutely. Hope you have a great day, and hope whatever research you're working on goes well.
All right. Thanks, Jonah.
Thank you, Daniel.
That is For the Record. My name is Jonah Jung for BCIT's The Crow.
Trains are fascinating to watch, although some people may forget how dangerous these high-speed vehicles actually are. The rise in trespassing incidents have skyrocketed, with young people showing rather risky behavior by jumping on these moving trains. CN Rail says more than 100 Canadians are seriously injured or killed every year because of railway incidents. Chris Day, the National Director for Operation Lifesaver Canada, is my guest today, and I started our conversation by asking him what Rail Safety Week is all about and why it's so important.
For sure. Rail Safety Week is our premier opportunity each year to raise awareness and educate folks on what it is that they can do to help make Canada even safer when it comes to preventing rail-related incidents, injuries, and deaths. Operation Lifesaver has been around since 1981, and since our founding, we have seen the number of incidents in terms of crossing and trespassing incidents decline by about 80%, which is great progress, but we still have work to do. Our mission is to get to zero incidents, zero injuries, zero deaths, and we have work to do on that. The good news is that all of these incidents, each of these incidents is preventable. And every one of us, by doing our part to stay rail safe, by not being distracted at crossings, by obeying signs and signals, by not cutting across tracks at places we shouldn't be, or walking along, taking the dog out for a walk, or using it as a running trail, etc. Staying away, staying off, staying safe, staying alive. We each can do our part in that, and so we're really hoping that people do that, and that's what Rail Safety is all about. Rail Safety Week is all about.
Right, and that's really key in this story. And then a follow-up question on that then, what are some of the biggest safety concerns or common incidents involving railways that the public might not be aware of?
For sure. So one of the things that we were focusing on most during this Rail Safety Week is the very distressing recent spike in trespassing incidents and incidents involving serious injuries related to those trespassing incidents rather. So in the first half of 2025, the number of trespassing incidents across Canada increased by 46.8% versus the previous 5-year historical average. So those numbers, those incidents of trespassing have spiked, and the number of serious injuries related to trespassing have spiked by a whopping 150% compared to the 5-year historical average for that period. So we are seeing more incidents of trespassing and more people getting very seriously injured as a result. The factors driving that are several. First off, we're seeing a lot of young people who are taking risks around trains and tracks, and that can be for social media purposes. They're taking selfies, they're shooting videos. Some people, though, are trying to game the train or ride on trains. There was a really shocking video out of London, Ontario, not too long ago about some guys who'd come out of the bar, and it was just before school got underway at Western University. But 3 guys trying to ride the train through downtown London. That's very, very dangerous behavior.
Right.
We've also seen folks, there was an arrest in Alexandria, Ontario, where they were actually train surfing, riding on the outside of a rail car.
Wow.
And trying to, film that for their social media. That has proven fatal in a number of instances across Canada. There was a very high-profile incident of a young man who was doing that with his buddies. He was killed, and the very next week, his friends thought that the best way to honor his memory was to train surf again. And
Wow.
that is something that we are saying, listen, these are things that are entirely preventable.
Mm-hmm.
We have a role to play in that. In terms of crossing safety, there's also been a spike of about 14% in terms of crossing incidents at rail and road crossings. And that can involve people who just either aren't paying attention or don't see the lights, don't hear the bells, may not see the arm for whatever reason. They're on their phone, they're listening to loud music, they're having conversations with their friends or other people in the car, and they for whatever reason just don't see it. So there's some of that happens. There's also people, and there was an incident in White Rock not too long ago of people who take some mind-boggling risks. There was a stationary train that had come to a stop, and at a crossing, and I assume the family didn't want to wait the couple of extra minutes to get from one side to the other. So the parents were literally passing their children under the stopped train.
Oh my gosh.
These are incidents that are, again, entirely preventable.
Mm-hmm.
And are really very risky. I will say, just on trespassing again, there are a couple of other factors that we talk about as part of Rail Safety Week and throughout the year that are quite distressing for some people, but they're prevalent enough that we have to talk about them, and we have to make sure that people are aware of them so that we can address them. One is the fact that there is such a cost of living crunch and a housing affordability crunch in this country. We have seen a real increase in the number of encampments, so people experiencing homelessness, living in tents and other shelters, makeshift shelters along rail lines. And there have been incidences of people literally stumbling out of a tent into the path of an oncoming train.
Right.
There have been incidents as well, and there are a way to many incidents, frankly, of people attempting suicide by rail. And so the mental health crisis in this country is very real. And there have been a number of people attempting to end their lives. And to those people, we say, please reach out for help. Their help is available at any time of day or night via 988, the toll-free mental health line. And someone is always available and willing to listen. And if you reach out today, tomorrow can absolutely be better.
Right. Wow, I had no idea that there were so many issues involving railway safety, and I had no idea also about all the trespassing and social media videos and primarily youth taking these big risks. I think it's really important that people talk about that because I didn't even know that that was a big issue that was happening. So that's really informative. And finally, if there was one message you would want our listeners at BCIT to walk away with during Rail Safety Week, what would it be?
So first off, there is no undo button when it comes to you versus a train.
Mhm.
These incidents can cause some really serious life-limiting, life-altering injuries, or they can take your life. So we're asking everyone to please do their part to stay rail safe, and that means staying back and staying off of rail property, rail rail lines, etc., and staying safe, staying alive. That's how we can all do our part to improve on the rail safety gains that we have made over the last 45 years or so, to get to get to that final 20%, so we can finally get to zero incidents. Because each one of these, not only is it preventable, but the tragedy is that it affects the person, it affects their friends and family, it affects first responders who have to come to these scenes. It affects the railroaders, the crews on the trains themselves, and it affects entire communities. And so we can eliminate all of that hurt, all of that suffering, by each doing our part and staying rail safe.
That was my guest, Chris Day, and I'm Isabella Bertone for BCIT's The Crow.